Thanks very much, and thank you all for being here today. So I've got a bit of history in archaeology. I like a bit of history. And it's great to have with us a really historic aluminium company and the CEO of that company. Welcome, Roy, to Mines and Money Resourcing tomorrow. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. And it's a pleasure to have the opportunity to talk about so many issues that are becoming more and more important, and also just to be here with you and with the broader team. So thank you.
And so with this long history of Alcoa, innovative within the aluminium sector, globally present, part of that 20th century shift in society, what's your vision? What's Alcoa's vision for the future?
So Chris, let me start off with some basics and sort of transition over to what we're doing for tomorrow. The advantage we have in aluminium is a commodity that I've been in now for 2 decades. The great thing is that we start off from a great base. Aluminium is in pretty much everything that we use, whether it's automotive or aerospace or consumer handheld electronics. It's embedded in everything. And when I look at the development of aluminium as a commodity, also it was sort of the originator and one of those first movers when it comes to recycling. And in fact, for aluminium itself, it's infinitely recyclable. It doesn't lose value. It doesn't lose quality as you recycle. And so when I think about a world that needs to consider the full life cycle of a commodity, of materials, of metals, aluminium starts and really drives a value proposition when it comes to it itself as a metal. And as I look towards the future, demand is going to continue to increase. At the same time, recycling will increase as we see some of the older materials coming back into that value chain. And it offers an opportunity for recyclers, but also for primary producers, because more metal is needed as we go into this new green transition. And as we see more expectations about lowering the carbon content from mine all the way to product through time. And so for Alcoa, we start off being a member of this entire value chain for aluminium as a commodity. And we started to think about where in fact is our industry going? What does the world need us to do? For Alcoa, we have the opportunity of having been around for 140 years. We started to develop the process to industrialize and commercialize the production of aluminium. We've innovated all along the way, and you see a lot of the products that we use that we have made, that we've developed, that we've innovated, all the way down to the present day, where we've tried to simplify ourselves. We're focused on bauxite, alumina, and aluminium, and focused on creating solutions that actually work for our customers and actually can help them to achieve their objectives. And right now, when we look at the drive towards responsible mining or production practices, and even more importantly, how we're going to decarbonize both the industry and the products that we make. All of these trends, when connected with the value of aluminium as a commodity, mean that we have this great opportunity for this great leap forward for aluminium as an industry. And I would argue that Alcoa, because of the technologies that we're developing, because of the legacy, because of innovation, and because of where we started as one of the lowest carbon emitters per ton, it's a great foundation, but we need to continue to reinvent, to rethink, and to retool aluminium as an industry so that we can answer this quest, this need for decarbonization for our planet, and to really solve some of these problems so that our customers, as they're inserting more aluminium into that next electric vehicle, that they have the product that they need and can feel confident all the way from the mine that it's responsibly produced and carbon-free.
So with these innovations, though, they're not nascent, right? They've been under development for quite a while. What's changed now? What's shifted now to really bring those innovations to the fore, in particular in anodes and some of these other elements?
Yeah, it's a good question. And honestly, when Charles Martin Hall, who was the founder of Alcoa and was one of those first to come up with this new industrial scale process, when he designed the electrolytic process for aluminium, he realized that it was better to use an inert anode rather than a carbon anode. He just couldn't solve it. Material science hadn't advanced enough to be able to solve it. And so we've been working on this as a company for decades now. Which, for better or for worse, it didn't quite work, and we were always trying to find a way to make this inert anode actually be both cost competitive, but also to be a process that can be scaled up and can be industrial. The challenges that we've seen have many places been solved by developing material science and by having the right engineers and by having more experience with conventional technology. And so as we developed this process, the idea was to make it more competitive, to lower operating costs because you're no longer changing anodes so constantly. You can put more productive capacity in the same area, and you can also be sure that you have a capital cost that can be attractive and that can compete with conventional technology, and the Chinese that are running forward on their technologies as well. And so we developed it in order to be very competitive. Well, at the same time, when you eliminate that carbon anode, you also take the direct carbon emissions out of the production of aluminium. And so not only have we been developing the best technology from a competitiveness standpoint, it also happens to be zero carbon when connected over with renewable energy. And so the fact is that the stars have aligned in this particular place where we're actually coming to a stage where we're scaling up the product, and we have what we call the Elysis joint venture, which is a joint venture with Rio Tinto. We're actually building those first industrial scale electrolytic pots that will produce at scale that first zero carbon aluminium that's ever been produced in the world. And so you've got what should be a more competitive process, because in the end we're a commodity and we need to produce and have our costs in a place that we can be competitive. But it also happens to answer that decarbonization question, which gives you that added impetus, that added layer of value that you can bring, because we're also at the same time working with our customers to demonstrate the importance of low carbon or zero carbon products, and driving value across all those different areas, and helping our customers to recognize that, which in the end is also good for Alcoa as a company. So it's taken time, but it is in fact timely. And so I'm pretty excited that we're able to solve these things and have these first materials that will be coming out just when our customers are demanding them.
And it seems like there's still a commitment to primary, right? We heard about this yesterday, this call that recycling will solve all these issues, but long product lifetimes means that we're not going to get that material back. So this commitment to primary, and that means investment in these new technologies. But those technologies will still, for aluminum with alumina that is very tightly bonded, you still need the energy, right? So how do you get hold of and keep that energy in order to power these future smelters, essentially?
It's a great question, and let me start with your first point. When we think about the growth in aluminium demand, the fact is that there is a lot of space for recycling and the need to recycle. And in the very beginning, I'll tell you that is part of the value proposition of aluminium. But there's also going to be the continued need for primary aluminium. And even more importantly, when you think about the carbon emissions for the aluminium industry as a whole, I would argue that Alcoa is very well positioned across the value chain, because we're essentially mostly natural gas fired in our refining portfolio and 80% renewable in our smelting portfolio. The fact is that much of the industry is not there yet. So you can make great changes, and you can see a serious decarbonization effort if you can move to renewable energy and then eventually to Elysis. So you're going to have a need both for secondary and for primary, and we are committed to working on both. We have a bunch of technologies we're developing on the secondary side so that we can recycle and take the dirtiest of scrap and turn it into the highest purity aluminium available. So that's a great direction that we're headed. But from a primary standpoint, getting back to your original question, it's absolutely critical that we continue to produce aluminium, because it is a part of that electric vehicle. It is a part of the infrastructure that this world is going to need as we decarbonize. Energy is what it's all about. And when you think about today, a lot of the places that we've developed, and Saudi Arabia is a good example of that, Australia, it has been because we had access to natural gas at competitive prices. You look at the smelting portfolio, it's typically developed next to hydropower, not because it was renewable, but because it was available, because it was competitively priced, and because the smelter could be that first large off-taker and help to develop a specific area. The game for the future is to continue to find those renewable sources. And we see a lot of the work that we're doing in an example in Norway, where that smelter can be that first customer for wind power, for solar power. We also see it in Spain, where we're in the midst of trying to repower our San Ciprián aluminium smelter, where the development of wind farms is an opportunity for us to connect early on in the process and be that first off-taker, have a competitive price, also be producing inside of Europe. But it's finding those places where renewable energy can be available in sufficient quantities and can be competitively priced that then adds into making primary aluminum competitive as a commodity. And when you think about the need for the refining business as an example, so refining is the piece that still needs to be solved. We're working on a couple technologies, mechanical vapor recompression, electric calcination, to transform the use of natural gas to make steam and to calcinate. We're trying to change that into the use of electrical energy as well, rather than fossil fuels. Now that's, it's a noble purpose, but then you need access to renewable energy as well. You need to find how you make that switch and how you do it so that you can be competitive, because the customers aren't going to pay necessarily just because you're going to have higher costs because you have renewable energy. We can develop that through time, but in the end, we need to make sure that we're focused both on driving towards decarbonization, but also making sure that we can transform our portfolio and be successful at it.
I'd like to talk a little bit about those customers who are demanding. Are they very specific in their demands, and are you kind of responding to those with different products? So out in the market today, we see kind of low carbon offerings, high recycled content offerings, maybe for certain specific customers, or are they much more general? Are they saying you need to manage all of your ESG risks? Is it all about carbon, or is it broadly coming from the customers?
All of the above.
Okay.
And so, and I would say at this point, we're still in a market that is developing. And so there is a clear need, and we see it in our ambition to get to net zero by 2050. We see it in our customers' ambitions to get to net zero over that same course of time. So decarbonization is front of mind for everybody. But understanding what decarbonization means, and in fact trying to make sure people understand how that value chain connects from bauxite mining, which moved to electric trucks, to refining, making sure that you can squeeze carbon out of the refining business as well, and then into ELYSIS as zero carbon. That education project is massive, because as our customers think about the way that they report, the way that they drive their targets and ambitions, it can be pretty complex. And so for us, that developing that market, while at the same time we can offer low carbon products, but also start pointing our customers towards zero carbon products, it's work that needs to be done. It's education that needs to occur. And in the end, it is both, to a certain extent, a push, but more importantly, it's a pull. And the more educated, the more thoughtful that our customers are getting, the more their targets, they realize that between now and 2050, there's really not that many years. Yeah. And in fact, the technologies need to be developed over these next few years so they can then be rolled out so that then the customers can be buying them in time. It needs to move quickly. But the other side of that then is the more broader ESG expectations. I always look at it, the world is a much more transparent place than it ever has been, because whether you're in the Amazonian rainforest or someplace in Africa, many people now have access to social networks and have access to point their phones and take a video. And so responsibility in the way that we choose to mine or choose to manage our bauxite residue inside of the alumina refinery, or how our employment practices at our smelters and the use of that renewable energy, all this is becoming fully transparent. And so the need to connect with our communities, our societies, our local, regional, and national regulators, it moves at the speed of light. And expectations are mounting, expectations from our shareholders, right? From a lot of these large investment houses now have very high expectations. But even more importantly, expectations from the communities around us and how we work together to create shared value. And so this is a development that's moving very quickly. And our customers and our shareholders both are demanding that we make progress here. And make progress is as yet not completely defined. Is why it's so helpful to have certification bodies, and for Aluminium, it's the Aluminium Stewardship Initiative, which you know probably better than I do. But that offers an opportunity to look all the way from mine to product, and really certify that along the way you're doing things in the right way, that you're driving integrity, that you're making sure that you're connecting with the communities, that you're doing things that can help promote biodiversity, that can help make sure that you have actions that back up everything, all your rhetoric and all the things that you're saying. And so all of this happening at the same time is again, it's an educational project. It's something that needs to come together so that in the end, our customers can have the products they need so that they can achieve their targets. but it's all of the above.
Okay, so for the certification side of things, you've been in, Alcoa's been in these communities for decades. Western Australia, in Brazil, these are places that you've developed together with the local communities. But the future requirements for bauxite and for materials downstream as well is going to be in new areas. And maybe you're not going to be there. Maybe it's going to be other players in the industry. How does the aluminium sector work together to kind of manage those risks? At the moment, what we see within the certification process is, of course, the best performers are going to be the early adopters, and of course, they're going to lead the charge. But really, we need to bring in those other 700 million tons of emissions that are out there, those other 6 billion tons of bauxite residue that will be in situ by mid-century. Is there increased cooperation between the aluminium sector, or do you see folks going off in divergent directions?
It's a great point, and to be quite honest, it's one of the things that keeps me awake at night. The need not just to make sure Alcoa can be competitive forever, but to also help drive the aluminium industry, which then drives demand because you can decarbonize aluminium in general. But at the same time, make sure that in the responsible way that we're acting, that we're managing very smartly tailings, mining tailings, that we're managing residues, that we're connecting with our workforces. Because what happens in the industry impacts all of us. And every time we see one of these tailings failures, it ends up increasing the cost for everybody else to make sure that we're managing them more smartly. And it's a vicious circle when you don't have everybody really working to comply with the same set of rules and the same set of expectations. And again, this person in a remote community that has a phone that takes a video can cast a negative shadow over everything that we do from an aluminium standpoint, and that can hurt demand, it can hurt our customers, it can hurt us as an industry. So your question is there more cooperation? I think the answer is absolutely yes, but it needs to be cooperation inside the industry, and we have industry groups that try to promote how do you get from today's carbon emissions to net zero by 2050, make sure that you can do it in all parts of the world and with all the different players. But you also need that to be promoted through local, regional, and national governments. You need it to be promoted through investors, right? You need it to be promoted through host countries and also through the originating countries from a lot of these companies. And we look at a lot of the processes that are happening with decarbonization and the COP work that's being done. These things help to promote a set of expectations that drives everybody to have to make these changes, which in the end helps us to move the industry forward really quickly. Again, from an Alcoa perspective, our goal, our target is to make sure that we're running forward, developing technologies that solve these problems. We're a company that needs to create a profit, and we need to demonstrate that we can do that in a responsible and sustainable fashion. But we also see that work can have a great impact on the broader industry. And it's through these cooperation, through showing what good really looks like, through working and lobbying with local governments. Because in the end, when you have a global system that helps us to decarbonize, or when you have the same expectations around how you manage your tailings again, or how you choose to responsibly connect with traditional owners of the land where you happen to be mining, the more you can universalize that, it means your neighbors can be very good neighbors. It means your communities can be happy not just with you, but with the other aluminium companies that happen to be in the area. And in the end, it creates a more vibrant industry. But it's tough, right? It's not easy to align all these interests and make sure that people are working together.
And also, we heard it yesterday, actually, in the last session, we touched on Indigenous communities and on some of the social impacts as well, and the need for just transition, not just an energy transition. Can you maybe talk specifically on some of Alcoa's actions around social engagement and just transition?
To me, and this is something I've found throughout my career, and it just repeats itself when it comes to being a manager of a location or connecting with our communities or even talking to our investors and our shareholders. It's a fact that we need to learn to listen. We need to learn to listen, to actually pay attention to what our traditional owners are saying, what our communities are saying, what our investors are saying, and then take action when we see gaps, when we see things that we need to change and adapt. And so again, it's everybody has access now. There's almost instant transparency when things are happening, and so the social side is only, the expectations are only ratcheting and ratcheting and ratcheting up. But that ability to listen and to pay attention and to, in fact, create a long-term relationship I mean, we've been in some of these communities for decades, right? 40 or 50 years. Our Messina plant's been operating for more than 100 years. I mean, these are places where we have long connections to communities. We're important in those communities, but we need to continue to listen to their needs and listen to what good looks like and what we can do to help satisfy their needs, to develop the great jobs inside of the populations, and to really make sure that we're creating shared value for all of us, for communities, for the company, and for the host governments in place.
Fantastic. Move for the final question. Bring it back to aluminium. There's a lot of metals in the room today, and yesterday there was a chart showing the periodic table and the criticality or the strategic access to those metals. And aluminium came a solid mid-table, right? It was pretty, it was behind all the sexy minerals and the battery minerals. What differentiates aluminium? What is aluminium's role in the energy transition that makes us different from those other materials?
I would just highlight two things since we're short on time. Aluminium is the infrastructure, right? It's been the infrastructure for a very long time. It's why we've seen great demand growth over these last decades. In the end, it's in everything. And so it is going to be a part of today, and more importantly, it's going to be a part of the future. And so it's not as glamorous or perhaps as flashy as some of the metals that really people are discovering now and that need to be part of this new battery transition. But in the end, it has been there, and it's going to continue to be there. And the better that we can create this drive towards low carbon, the better that we can do. The other side of it is that when you think about the carbon footprint of today's aluminum industry, you have vast scope for rapid changes as you move towards renewable power. And I don't mean to make that sound easy, because it's absolutely not. But today you've got a bunch of coal-fired capacity that someday needs to find a transition towards renewables. That's a bunch of renewable energy. So you can make a real difference both for the globe but also for our industry to head towards low carbon and in the end towards carbon-free aluminium. And again, Alcoa has an important role in that. It's our innovation, our work that needs to drive us in the right direction. But the opportunities are great. And aluminium is going to be needed for tomorrow's world, so we have to solve them.
With that, thank you very much, Roy Harvey. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very